Hi there everybody, I am Tyler, the shop supervisor here at North Star Ag. Today we're going to go through our preseason checklist on our fertilizer spreaders. Our example today is a Mobility 1000. So first thing we're going to start with is our apron chain. We check the belt tension and our belt alignment first. And how we do that is our alignment is adjustments on the side, on each side to get it so it's tight for our tightness and then for our alignment so it's running perfectly straight so we don't have any issues in the field. Some spreaders that we do sell do have 2 apron chains, not just 1. The other thing we check for is our pins to make sure our pins aren't wore on the sides and then they can get ripped out so we don't have any downtime in the field. And how we check that is just when we're running the machine, we will slowly turn the machine over and check each side of the pins. So when checking your belt tightness or your apron chain on your units, you want to go underneath the unit after you're tightening it up and make sure you got about a 1/4 inch gap on the front side on this cross member, and then on the back or the next cross member from it, you want it to be just barely touching. You want the chain to be relatively tight. So our second thing we're going to talk about is the bearings on the unit. And the bearings are usually located on the apron chain, and those are our main issues that we would have being a fertilizer spreader. We always take, and for example, we would take and just run the unit till the bearing gets warm to see if the bearing is out, or just by looking at the bearing we can tell. And if the bearing is out, it needs to get replaced. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the gearboxes on these units. On this unit, for example, the gearbox is located underneath the spinners. And then there's 2 plugs, one on each side underneath each spinner that you have to pull out and make sure there is oil inside. You want a little bit of oil to come out of the plugs when you pull them out. If the oil is dirty, replace it. It needs to get replaced with 80/90 gear oil. Our next thing we're going to talk about here is our lug nuts for our torque specs. We want to make sure all our lug nuts are tight on the units, or on every tire on the unit. So if you got duals on your unit or just singles, we want to make sure each lug nut is tight. If they are not tight to where they need to be, it will cause failures in the field. Our next thing would be checking make sure the wheel seals are still good on the units, on each hub. So you got to go behind each hub, behind the tire, and look up and see if the wheel seal is leaking. If it's leaking bad enough to where it needs to get replaced, we need to get it replaced. If it is leaking a little bit and you're not worried about it, we still should replace it just to be on the safe side. We don't need to get dirt in the bearing and then that causes the bearing to go out, and then we have a bearing failure and then we have downtime. And then while you're back here underneath the unit, depending on the tire, your valve stem might be at the back, on the back side of the wheel. So then you just take and you just always want to check your tire pressure. It's as simple as that. The next thing to check for is to make sure your wiring is all good still, to where we don't have any worn through spots in any spot of the wiring or a mouse chewed on it when it was in storage. So just take your eyes and just walk through and just check to make sure that all your wiring is good throughout the whole machine. Our next thing we want to talk about is density. And our density is the weight of our product that we are spreading. We want to make sure we have the correct density, in which we do provide a density cup for that matter through parts. Some units actually do come with it, with the density cup, and some units do not come with them. Our next thing we're going to talk about is our test kits. If you do have one, the best thing to do is to use it at the beginning of the season with your first load of fertilizer out in the field to make sure that your spread pattern is still what you need it to be from the year before. If you do not have a test kit, it is very important to have one to check the spread pattern on a unit, even if it's an old unit or a brand new unit, just to check to make sure that your spread pattern is still correct. So we do not have streaking in the field and have issues of waste of fertilizer when we don't need to. And if you do need a test kit, our parts department can get one for you. So our last thing we're going to talk about is hooking the spreader up to your tractor. You want to hook it up to your tractor and make sure everything on the screen is the same as it was last year, so we don't have any issues of funny things happening. Product density goes into this, especially on your screen. Because if you have the wrong product density, it will be the wrong spreader constant and your spreader will not spread correctly. And we always want to run the unit empty so there is nothing in the hopper, to where if there is a failure either on the apron chain or in a bearing, we catch it before there's product in the hopper of the machine. These are simple things to check over on your unit so we do not have downtime during your busy season in the spring or in the fall. If you do have any questions or concerns, give us a call here at North Star Ag.